I don't expect, massive changes from Ime. They know who they are as a team. They've had a great year. They have a real identity. We kind of know, they're going to be physical, they're going to defend, and they're going to rebound. And, I don't think too much will change from that philosophy. I don't feel any pressure from that. You feel good about the win, but you prepare for the force that's coming, and you tweak some things to try to improve your game.
100 playoff wins now. Congratulations. And which one was your favorite?
Game 6 in Cleveland in 2015.
Yeah.
That's first championship, kind of unexpected. I mean, to win a title that year, and kind of it felt like we skipped a couple steps, like we were supposed to maybe go through a little more pain. So, but to feel that feeling as a coach to win your first championship, pretty special.
How important is that process? And I'm not trying to get you to dismiss the Rockets and what they're trying to do, but it feels like they're a team in need of those steps. And this Warrior team kind of made those steps before you got here. How important is it to go through that experience before you actually get to where you can win the Larry?
Well, when I think about my NBA upbringing, I think about teams like the Bulls, losing to the Pistons for a few years before they finally broke through. Or, actually the Pistons had to break through Boston, to get there for the first time. And there seems to be a process, a sequence that, teams have to go through as they climb to the top. But I just think playoff experience is a big deal. I mean, it really is a different game. The officiating's different. It's more physical, more pressure. You can feel the importance of every possession, and it's hugely helpful to have guys on your team who have been through it and who understand it.
Coach, you made a comment to the assembled media in Houston earlier today that you thought maybe it was a little bit of a mistake to leave Jimmy Butler into the game as long as you did into the third quarter. Can you expand on as to why you thought that was a mistake and how you'd like to kind of approach it differently going forward?
Well, it disrupted our rotations. I mean, we bring them out in the middle of every quarter for a couple of minutes, especially the first three quarters, and it allows us to get to the 5-man groupings that we like. But what we did in the middle of that third quarter, we were rolling, and we just decided we didn't want to disrupt the momentum, and so we kept him out there. And they started making a run while he was out there. So it just, I should have taken him out earlier. Guy was great in his minutes in the second quarter. It would have been the perfect time to get Jimmy out for a few minutes, and then that allows him to, finish the quarter and then start the fourth. But because he played the whole third, I didn't start him in the fourth, and I thought our lineup combos were a little disrupted as a result.
Is it harder to take a guy out of the game when he's rolling, or keep a guy on the bench when you know he needs rest, even though you may need him on the floor in that moment?
I mean, it's all difficult. During the playoffs, you're constantly making decisions that may or may not work, so you're really just going with your gut. I do like to have a set rotation. I think players feel comfortable knowing when they're going to go in, and I think it helps them play better. The stars, I don't think, it matters as much too, although, Steph really appreciates when he's got a consistent rotation pattern. So, I think in the playoffs, you have to sort of throw everything out the window and do whatever it takes. That's why we started Steph in the fourth. We felt like it was too dicey to keep him on the bench to start the fourth after, everything we were looking at and the run that they were making.
I'm interested to know, this is always such a cat and mouse game when you get into a series. What adjustment do you think Udoka is going to make for game 2?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. We talked about it as a staff the last couple of days. They obviously had a lot of success with, the big lineups, the physicality. He may change some lineup combinations around. He may not. I would say most coaches wait until after 2 games to make a major adjustment, whether it's a rotational addition or a scheme change. I think I don't expect massive changes from Ime. They know who they are as a team. They've had a great year. They have a real identity. And so we kind of know, they're going to be physical, they're going to defend, and they're going to rebound. And I don't think too much will change from that philosophy.
Thought it was a B effort, maybe B minus, B plus, whatever. Wasn't your best game, but it was good enough to get the win. When you come off a win, are you more likely to kind of stick with what actually worked or look to make some tweaks and tinker to see if you can't get that A performance out there?
Yeah, well, it was an A performance through, the middle of the third. And then, we watched the tape with the team. There were some obvious things that we have to improve upon, particularly our offensive execution. And so, in a situation like this, you feel good about the win, but you prepare for the force that's coming, and you tweak some things to try to improve your game.
Steve, you know what I want to ask you? I mean, we all know, obviously, how special Steph is, but there's something that goes beyond basketball that I really notice, especially in a series like this. Whatever we do in life, when there are people or forces that are grabbing at us constantly, trying to stop us from where we're going, that really, really annoys people, and it's a struggle. I want to know what tools Steph uses to be grabbed and shoved and stopped and all of the illegal things that happen, and not just succeed at basketball, but keep his cool. How does he do it?
Incredible mental toughness and fortitude. He's well aware of everybody's game plan is going to be the same thing. It's going to be physical with him when he's on offense, attack him when he's on defense. And honestly, I think Steph knows it's the ultimate sign of respect, and he deals with it beautifully. He hardly ever complains to the ref. He just does his thing, and he's such an incredible athlete that he finds ways to free himself up, even through all the physicality.
And through the physicality, you can advocate for Steph. And as we've talked about on this very program before, we asked you about complaining, and you said complaining doesn't work, yet you do have to kind of get your 2 cents in there. When you see this going on, this manhandling of your star, how do you go about encouraging the officials to adjudicate the illegality of this contact?
Well, you just mention it to them during games. I mean, both coaches, I'm sure, are talking to the officials, and I just try to point out freedom of movement is, a big part of the rules, and if they're draped around them and they have two arms wrapped around them, that's supposed to be a foul. So there's not much else you can do. I mean, if you want, you can send clips into the league, and during the playoffs, those clips will be shared with, the other team so they know what you're sending in. And, it's all part of the song and dance of the playoffs. I don't think sending clips in helps, to be honest with you, but we might do it once in a while.
Steve, it was the first playoff game for Brandon Pajemski and for Quentin Post. What did you think in terms of how they handled it?
I thought they handled it well. Brandon made some huge plays for us, really played well. I think it was great for Quentin to get really his first taste of the NBA playoffs. Brandon, has played 2 years now, so he's got a lot more experience than Quentin. Played in the play-in last year. But for both guys, it felt like the last couple of weeks have already been the playoffs, and the Memphis game is absolutely a playoff game, whether they want to call it that or not. So, I don't know. I just think that young players need that experience. They need to feel that vibe, and these last few games have been really good for both guys.
Especially Moses, and not that he was shaky offensively, but he didn't really seem to have his offensive game, and then fourth quarter, he hits that big jumper in the mid-range and then the corner three. What is it about Moses that allows him to go from a really quiet offensive night to being able to come through big in the fourth?
Well, two massive shots. I mean, those were enormous. And we've always loved Moses' professionalism, his work ethic, his poise. I mean, he's really a fantastic young guy, and the process of these last 4 years has really been great. He's just improved, and gotten better and taken on more responsibility, and now he's one of our most important players.
Coach, I want to go back to Steph for a second. He has referred to himself as the petty king. So we know he hears everything and at times uses it for motivation. And there were plenty in the media, especially after what happened a little over 2 weeks ago at Chase Center, that were referring to Amen Thompson as sort of the next Steph stopper. We've seen other names throughout the history of the league sort of get that title for maybe a day or two, and then all of a sudden it goes away when he has a big performance. Does he know about those things? Does he take it to heart? And sort of like, where does he go from there when he hears it?
Yeah, I mean, he said it himself, right? Did he call himself the petty king?
I think so. Yeah.
Or did you make that up?
No, I didn't make it up. That was like
it was him.
When you guys won over Boston. That was a big thing. Like both he and Clay were talking about hearing everything that everybody says. He says nothing gets by him, and yeah, that one I won't take credit for that one, Coach.
Well, he sees everything, he hears everything. He just has the right sense of how to motivate himself, and how to play at the best of his ability when the best is needed. I mean, it's a brilliant quality that only the very best competitors share, and Steph has it.
You played with one of the greatest of all time in Michael Jordan, and just looking back at his career, it was 6 years in the playoffs before they won the finals. I think that was before you got there, but did Michael Jordan have that same sort of chip on his shoulder that you see in Steph?
Yeah, I mean, they're very different people, but the competitive gene is what stands out for both of them. Michael was, I think, a petty king himself, like just using everything. I remember Jeff Van Gundy, when he was coaching the Knicks, said something about, Michael befriends every player in the league and then he destroys them at night. And, and I think somehow Michael took that to Jeff calling him a fraud, and it was like, poor Jeff, he didn't really call him a fraud. It was more just Michael used that. He's like, okay, all right, here we go. And then the next game, he's dominating and talking trash to Jeff. And I mean, so Michael was famous for that stuff.
Coach, when you win game one on the road, you know where the fan mind goes. It's like, all right, cool, we got this series. And obviously you guys can't think that way, but how would you describe the mental approach when the Rockets are going to be, totally desperate and you guys need to find a way to sort of combat that?
Yeah, well, we've got to prepare our guys to be ready for the force that they're bringing and the physicality. We've got to be ready to play through the bad stretches because there's always going to be some. No matter how well you play, there's going to be adversity. The other team's going to make runs. So you just have to take it 1 minute at a time, one possession at a time, and string together good basketball, good two-way basketball. But you have to do that with a sense of vigilance for what's coming, and that's kind of what playoff basketball is about, especially in these situations when you're up 1-0 on the road. You got to be ready for what's coming.
You mentioned halfway through the third, you had an A grade, and then it kind of went down from there. Part of it for me was the offensive rebounds that Houston was able to accumulate. How do you, as a staff, coach them up and maybe scheme it different so you don't give up 22 offensive rebounds in game two?
Well, they're going to get some. I mean, they're massive, and the other night they obviously didn't shoot well, so there were a ton of available rebounds. So I don't expect them to get 22 again, but they're such a good rebounding team that they're going to get plenty. I thought that what stood out on the tape was not so much negligence. It wasn't like we weren't hitting bodies and we weren't trying to rebound, but I thought we didn't get two hands on a lot of the balls. Loose balls, Jimmy talked about it in the press conference after the game. He tried to tip a couple of rebounds to teammates instead of grabbing them with two hands. I think Buddy had a couple where the ball was on the floor, and instead of grabbing it with two hands, he tried to tap it to himself. And they're so athletic that that's not going to work. So we just have to be really forceful with both hands and get every ball that's close to us. We gotta get it like our lives depend on it.
Coach, I think this is overall a good thing, and I wonder if you notice it, but you and your guys sound like you feel very, very confident. And we could go back to, for instance, Draymond All-Star Weekend. He predicts a championship. Jimmy Butler has kind of spoken that way this week a couple of times, sort of predicting a championship. How does that make you feel? What kind of pressure do you feel that might add?
Oh, I don't feel any pressure from that. I feel the normal pressure that the NBA playoffs bring, because this is what our whole season is dependent on. This is what determines, the success of the season. And so we feel the normal pressure, but I think we all feel confident and excited because it's also the most fun time of year. And really the key is to find that balance between, recognizing that, yes, it's important. Yes, it's the playoffs. Yes, there's a lot on the line. And, oh, by the way, it's a basketball game. Nobody's life is on the line. Nobody's health is on the line. This should be fun. And so you have to find that balance between the importance, but also the joy that comes with competing. And if you can, that's what Phil Jackson was, honestly, he was the best I've ever been around in that regard. Just finding perspective and finding a really good place in which to thrive during the playoffs. That's what we're searching for.
Yeah, no pressure, but the more Warrior games we have on our station, the better we do as a station, and the more I'm able to feed my family. So there is that, Steve.
There is that.
Yeah.
But no, it's, we're all lucky. We do what we love, and I think our guys really enjoy this. But the biggest thing is our young guys. All they have to do is follow the lead of Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy and Loon. Our vets who have been here a million times. They're going to lead us. Our young guys just have to play as hard as they can and let it rip. And I think we're going to have a lot of success.
What's the one key thing that you have to do or you have to avoid not doing in order to allow Houston to be able to get the upper hand in a game 2 or in any game in the series?
Well, we can't turn it over. To me, that's the biggest thing. If we turn it over, their athletes are going to get free for easy baskets, and we can't afford that. We've got to be able to contain them and take away the easy stuff. So, fouls, turnovers, those are the things that'll hurt us. Obviously, the offensive boards as well. But like I said, they're going to get plenty of those. It's all, it's kind of all part of the package. So we just have to check as many boxes as possible.
Coach, I don't know if this is just kind of a layman's thing, but like a lot of people look at a 95-85 NBA basketball game and they're like, whoa, right? That had been a long time since that's a normal final score. Are you comfortable in that area, or in a perfect world, would you rather this matchup does end up in the hundreds?
Oh, I don't care what the score is, as long as we have more points.
Well, right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just, we want to run, so we're not trying to keep it under 100. We want to score 115 if we can. And I do think we can be much better offensively. So it's really about the process and just getting enough things done to get the win.
Want to throw this at you, too. The Athletic today released an NBA players poll. So this is anonymous voting by actual NBA players, and they had the most underrated players in the league. They also had the most overrated players in the league. And in the top 6, both Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are in the most overrated player list. What would you say to another player who's voting those guys as among the most overrated players in the league?
Well, first of all, I don't really care. So I haven't given that any thought. But all I know is we're really lucky to have both guys. I mean, Draymond is a 4-time champ, and Jimmy's carried a team to the finals twice. So they're winners, and we all see that here, and that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, it feels a little bit to me like haterade is being consumed in other quarters, and that's okay. That's natural. It's funny, Steve, you mentioned 1997 in your post-game commentary about that game, 95-85, and I'm just looking at 1997 where the Jazz beat you in Game 4 78-73. Do you miss those old rock fights, kind of like you had in Game 1?
Honestly, that's exactly what I was thinking of, was those scores, that finals, there was a finals between the Knicks and Houston in 95, I think, 94. It just felt like a wrestling match. So that was the era I was thinking of. And no, I don't miss that at all. I think the game is much better when it's, played at a faster pace with more scoring. But playoffs are different, and whatever it takes, you have to do. And I read that every single game of the first 8, except for the Memphis OKC game, which was a blowout, obviously, but the other 7 were all in the 80s or 90s from a pace standpoint, which is extremely low. So no coincidence. It's just, the playoffs take on a different complexion.
Speaking of those other series, Coach, we know you watch all the games. Did anything else catch your eye from around the league over the first weekend?
Well, Clipper Denver series is pretty compelling stuff to watch. That was high level stuff, both games. I think they're 2 of the best teams in the league, and they're playing right away. But the whole West is really loaded. I think the depth of the conference means that you got a lot of amazing teams, high level teams, and it's going to be really competitive stuff.
Can you take our listeners through kind of what the experience the team has been having since Sunday? Like, you guys you're cherishing these days off. How much practicing? What are the guys kind of doing to pass the time over these 48 hours?
Well, yesterday was off entirely for the team. I know Steph went and played golf. The young guys went in and played pickup to keep their conditioning and their rhythm. But the vets were all off, and they all did their own thing. Coaches, we gathered and met and watched the game, and kind of plotted our strategy for tomorrow. And then today was practice. We had a very light practice, a really good film session, and this is kind of how it goes, especially in the first round where you have all these days between games. It's fine with us. The rest is good for us. But it is a lot of downtime in the hotel for sure.
I'm contractually obligated to ask one Jonathan Kuminga question. Was he a part of that little pickup scrimmage, and how's he doing in this trip?
Jonathan has been fantastic. I mean, his attitude, his energy on the bench, cheering guys on, staying ready. He's a great, great young guy. And, this has been tough on him, but he is doing exactly what he should be doing, which is staying ready because, as I've told him and our coaches have told him, things can change in a heartbeat in the NBA, and he's got to just be ready for when his time comes, and that's exactly what he's doing. So he's staying ready, and I would be surprised if at some point, his time doesn't come because I've just seen this too many times. But when you're in a good groove, you kind of keep doing what you're doing, and then you adjust as you go.